Hello, let me tell you a little bit more. This is Professor George Lees in his own living room where I make most of my videos. And this is a leader of our nation in the civilised history sector and also in the university fraud sector. That is Melvyn Bragg, the thief at Leeds University, Chancellor at Leeds University, false history expert at every one of the countries that he visits. This is him in his dinner suit at the Sydney Institute. I've just tried to make the video I made about him a couple of months ago public again, and what I've learned is that the list of the videos that I've already published are banned in many countries across the world, and none of that is manipulatable by me, the editor of my page. And I've now asked the page to make this man, who's a personal friend of Klaus Moser, the thief and the chief statistician in the House of Lords, and he is defending the religious fraud and genocides that Christianity have perpetrated, and he's pretending that Christianity is being persecuted by someone else. It entirely funds, along with the BBC false news manipulation, his trips to the Sydney Institute in a fucking posh dinner suit, telling lies about what he and his peers do to the ordinary people in the United Kingdom and all of the people all across the brutalised world, with NATO's armies at his disposal. So I've tried to make it public, and let me just show you that I'm going to press that button for the third time in 10 minutes, and I'm saving the publicity that this is vitally important information for the free world. Boom. Save changes. All changes are now saved. Okay, and I can read you out the message that I've posted there, just in case they hide behind the copyright issues, that this is a for-profit movie that he has made in the colonies about the brutalisation of the Aboriginal people down there by Christianity. Melvyn's secretary at Leeds University gets all of my emails on all of his frauds, but she never replies. Melvyn Bragg defends the religious fraud and genocides in the colonies in full evening dress. Please see all of my videos on the BBC and the universities. Bragg is Chancellor at Leeds and a business mate of Lord Klaus Moser, the chief statistician for the government, and a joke about both Santa Claus and Moses coming out of the bull rush to profit from World War II and cull all the residual pagans. Moser is registered as a trader in education out of the Westminster Lord's address, and I can give you all his director numbers if you promise not to put me in a fire pan or a refugee camp with his other victims. Okay? That's why they will not make it public. That's why Melvyn Bragg hides behind his fancy words and his posh suits in the all expenses paid tours to other continents, because they're asset stripping the British Treasury, and the chief statistician is the head of Jewish schools in London that lead people on into the arts sector. The fee at Moser schools is £30,000 when I last looked, and I made his video public, but Melvyn Bragg is shielded by the establishment. He pretends not to understand the last simple step to civilization. Every one of my videos shows you how that step could be made were it not for thieves and cheats like him, who ask others to murder on their behalf and to commit genocide all over the peace-loving world. Okay? I'll try and make this little video public, but before I leave, I'll show you the other list of the videos that I've got and how many countries, I don't know which countries they are unavailable in, But every time I make a movie and it's plagiarized by Able Danger, it gets published under Able Danger without any of the content that I put in it and no recognition that it was contributed there to me by me. Let's have a look at the videos. So here's the video listings, and I think I need to go into the video editor to see about the banishment of them. Quite standard. The first one I made on the piezo fraud and the religious fraud is unavailable and has only got 6 visits. Yeah, that's me explaining and introducing Abelard Reuchlin to the free world. They are very reluctant to let anyone talk about the religious fraud because of the magnitude of it. And if you look at the photos of the topics that I'm covering, this is about making my videos censored in regions of the world, vast tracts of land that have lost their sovereignty to the G8 leaders. And he's an advisor to their statistician on how you can fake up the statistics and steal from the treasury. Okay? And I've just released that now, and it looks as if it may have become public. There's the joke about the loss of sovereignty and the culling of the indigenous peoples by Rich Hall and his colleagues in the Masons, and all of the abuses on the Negroes. That one's gone out. It's had 91 views in one day. The name for tonto in the Lone Ranger film means fool in Spanish. That is how vicious the jokes are by the people in the Christianity sector and in the law enforcement sector behind the masks. And the mask that Mozart's dad used to wear to the parties has been unveiled as part of the New World Order musicians scam today. Shania Twain, I don't know whether or not she is privy to the purpose of the video she made in a leopard skin coat, but it is part of the religious joke that has been covered up since I made the video on Abelard Reuchlin way back. Let me try and find it. So we're allowed to talk about genocide in Scotland and returning troops being killed by the Walter Scott Foundation and the secret societies led by the Peelers and the local Freemasons in the Borders region. And that is Sheriff Kevin Drummond, who is threatening to strip me of half of my own home and tells me to shut up in his law courts as he uses the term milud to trade behind the sequestration of all of Scotland's assets by global secret societies. Okay? So they let me publish that and the killing of British loyalists in war and revolution, but the religious fraud is taboo. Okay, and it does not show you in this listing whether or not they are public or not. I'm going to have to get that up. All of my calls on justice and the Trident nuclear weapons scandal since the referendum have been completely ignored. I've received another set of instructions to contact my local police office, and I've already given the Justice Secretary Michael Matheson my contact number and the case number for the police when I posted my explicit accusations on the London-based fraud to him with the case number on it from the police station. That is how the world is run now, and I'm allowed to tell you about JFK and Jackie O's sins beyond the execution of our first husband and what she does with her partners in the diamonds and the oil sector on our second and third partners, but I'm not allowed to tell you about Abelard Reuchlin. There you are. It's fucking locked. Abelard Reuchlin and the religious fraud. Billions of dollars or pounds in the pockets of the elites. It's locked. And many of these videos are unavailable in other countries. There is no definition of who gets to see them. Okay, there's the website address for the videos. I would love you to get in touch if you see that this is not going to open in your country. I think you know what the G8 countries are. They might have made it G7 again because Putin is not their favourite at this moment. Okay, let me take you down on the domestic frauds, all of which they've let through. Audit, fashion, all the scams in the sporting sector, they've let them through. I did not make that video unavailable to the public. It's vitally important, as I told Jim Fetzer on The Real Deal, that the religious fraud is released to all of the persecuted people, to the Islamic faiths, to all of the Buddhist faiths, to the Christians, to the Jews. All of them work together in the elite sector to steal from their worshippers and their taxpayers. Okay, I think you can see why they would have me silenced in some countries, but I did not realise the magnitude of it till this morning when I began to go into the video editor and I tried again and again and again to expose the Melvin Bragg for the thief and the petty criminal and propagandist that he has dedicated his life to. Okay, those ones are locked up. Some of them are personal to me and my wife, as if I could control the fate of my own sites on Google. Google is a very important place for refugees in the Prime Minister's 10 Downing Street residence, and they go to Google or they go to the media companies and they engage in the phone hacking scandals and they surveil all of the world's people. It is ruthless and shameless, and they're allowed to pick what facts come out, even in websites like this, and even with amateur investigative journalists who are the only people that are prepared to shame them for issues like that. That reads, world leaders under monarchies are the terrorists. 150 years of dark forces to 1990. Yet they let those ones through. The religion is banished to the back room. Okay? And if you want to see, there's another one, Islamic Menace 2, summary of the lies Britain is telling. The warmongers with the public school accent, locked, not by me. Lord Michael Ian Grade of Yarmouth, massive Ponzi schemes, they let that through. Religion and the elites are untouchable, but that's going to change, and that's why they're all limping along the pavements, and that's why we get no news of people like Lord Patton, because he's at the head of the food chain, and he had his cardiovascular attack on May the 17th. There is no news of his welfare or his future, or whether or not he's still limping across this earth. Okay, I'm going to have to find the video editor to get those little comments about it not being available in some countries. Yeah, they are ever so desperate not to let you know what they are doing to you. And that is the chief statistician who believes that education in London, this is Lord Klaus Moser, runs a Jewish school down there, the most expensive in the world. It puts out musicians like Yehudi Menuhin and maybe even Shania Twain, and they're really clever. Their education in the London area costs £30,000 per annum. Okay, the sun's beginning to break through after my revelations about the music industry and how it makes jokes about the persecution of its geniuses and the trivialization of all of the rest of its modern day releases. And I will close this video by showing you Lily Allen with the Christian cross orbiting the earth, and with the somewhere only we know rabbits and hares joke about Operation Winnie the Pooh and the diaspora of Hitler's friends to all of the world's civilized, in inverted commas, continents. Okay, so there's a video entitled Rich Hall, Negro Freemasons, 9/11, the US Pythons, Slaves, and it stops there. It's about the asset stripping of America and the Christian cross, the indigenous Indians, and they'll joke about law enforcement behind a mask that gets into the cartoon sector and becomes a series of jokes for the elites about the law enforcement sector in America. So you can see what we're touching on there is slavery, the award of Oscars to the jokers on war crimes and the genocide of Americans. Over there, the Yanks are coming. Yeah, this video will be made without any third-party content, because that is why they are able to knock some of them on the head. When you get the singers singing about the tragedy of the sound of silence after the killing of JFK, that video can no longer be found on the internet. It's on my website, but it has been deleted, not by me. It's censorship. JFK was killed by the people that killed Carlos the Jackal, but in a much more modern context. That's Beaverbrook, the Canadian, and Churchill, the British hero and the icon for tyranny for all of the period of his life. When he was replaced, his replacement Conservative Prime Minister was Lewis Hill. He has been written from Hansard, written out of Hansard, because he's a fascist conservative, and conservative means coney, which means rabbit, which means Hitler's friends. All of it is rationalised in the pages that are blocked in some countries. Okay, blocked in some countries. There we go. Coldplay, Dixie Chicks, the Oil Miracles, Tears and Beheadings, blocked in some countries. That's America, the land of the free, who cull all of their Indians and then launch the Lone Ranger joke about Tonto's name being Tonto, which converts in Spanish to fool. Okay? The dismemberment of sovereignty in New Zealand, the linkages to Christianity and to Hanukkah and the Haka, and the killing of people to win wars by the beheading by women of warlords on behalf of Israel in ancient history. And that is the hollow ferns joke. That is why the videos are sensitive, because the Prime Minister and his cabinet in those G20 countries are thieves and brigands, and they are just puppets on the end of the Rothschilds' strings. And Christianity is a horrific joke against the people, and it overlaps entirely. We swap the date of our Easter and we mix it around so that it cannot be on a fixed weekend. The Jews do the same thing with Hanukkah. Yeah, and all of them require you to come home to spend all of your savings on all of the retail products and all of your transport costs and all of the transport is still run by people like Branson, the war criminals, in the tax havens. Yeah, same on every continent across the globe. And GLOAG, our big bus magnet, will not let people roam on our land in Scotland again. Some countries are used to send people into exile for reasons like that. In the old days it was stealing bread. Now if you walk on Anne GLOAG's bus funded company in Perthshire, you could be sent to the colonies and you will be persecuted by the protocols in Leviticus by Levy and McRae. So this is legally condoned censorship that leads to the colonization of spirited people who do not even realise that then when they sing and dance about the rugby frauds that they have participated in without the vaguest insight, and they have dismembered their game into poverty so that the second team can no longer afford Anne GLOAG's bus, they try and silence the people that try to get the money back into decent society. Okay, video blocked in some countries. The victims of all of the G20's crimes are the countries where these videos will be blocked. Okay, there's a rare one. They've let that one through the net. 2 hours on religion and its geopolitical crimes, the Pishon, the kosher health deals in the Jewish religions. The Pishon is the Nile, and it's right next door to the Garden of Eden, where the BP plant still resides. That one's okay. It's not been blocked in other countries. Okay. Let me see what else they've blocked. That one. Religion, the geopolitical and legal sins 1, Haka, and the links to the Chinook or the Chinooka is a synonym for Haka. They've blocked that one because it's sensitive, because the English authorities used that to kill the people that were in a position to get rid of the sectarian problems in Ireland, which is one of their massive money streams and divide and conquer scams that runs for several decades. And the dismemberment of Irish sovereignty and their capacity to work with the Germans in World War II is also managed entirely out of the mind control systems, and those topics I'm now allowed to talk about because they're too old to be sensitive to the current governments, like the Chinook assassinations. And Ali G being a cover for propaganda, like Michael Moore in America was a cover for my MP and the Secretary of State for Scotland and his massive crimes against the civilised people in our region. All of that is allowed through. Matched third party content. That's me in my own living room with a Phrygian hat on that describes the crimes of Beaverbrook and Churchill in the War Office and in their editorial roles as propagandists and warlords, in the genocides of people at Gallipoli, and in the killing of all of those victims of World War I and World War II, where Beaverbrook the Canadian came into the English War Office and the English propaganda sector. Both of them are mates of the Third Reich, and all of the Third Reich leaders are trained in England, and that is the Winnie the Pooh and the Operation Mountbatten things that I have published on my websites. Even the frauds in Paris about Christianity, they've let that one through. Okay? The secret societies that created Christianity and Melvin Bragg covers up are allowed through. There's no rhyme or reason. All the rest of them. There's Melvin Bragg, and they've let me in. Look at that, isn't that amazing? They've let me edit my own website. Let's see if the ones on religion that I made. So there's the ones on the killing British loyalists and revolution and working men, just asking for a decent wage after they come back from the Napoleonic conflicts and from World War I, where 80 people in the Napoleonic issue were executed in Glasgow for just asking for a decent living, having fought against a left-wing leader who was entirely funded by the Rothschilds until they bailed out so that they could sequester the central bank, where Dave Prentice is still a leader. That's Dave Prentice, the head of Britain's biggest union, Unison, and all of his predecessors in the union movement being killed by tank commanders and on the end of a rope, like many of the black men in the unions in America, where my videos may be blocked, but I have no way of knowing. Okay, right, let's keep going until I get to the first of the massive religious fraud videos that I made. I was quite stunned. It's only had 8 views, but the reason for that is that it is not public, and I made it public as soon as it was released, and I followed it up with almost a dozen explicit videos. So this is still about the referendum in Scotland. I've got almost 250 videos on the crimes in Westminster and the minor crimes in Holyrood that could have made Scotland free. Those have all been published, and all of the desire to free Scotland has gone away, and now we're only interested in the big tits issues at Manchester United again, and the things that are all over the front pages of our papers on sexual scandals and all of the cover-ups for their financial crimes. Okay, there's the JFK issues again. Sick jokes in religious fraud. It's particularly sensitive. They do not want the truth out. Video blocked in some countries. ABBA, this is about the sequestration of the London Central Bank, the Bank of England, and the scams that the Rothschilds committed in those Napoleonic campaigns. Video fucking blocked in some countries. It's about the original sin and the religious fraud at the same times, and it's about the killing of Princess Diana. The word die is a joke about the Yom Kippur celebrations and the Knesset, and it's all locked into the crimes and the jokes of Monty Python's The Knights That Say Knee, and the wood joke about different forms of trees being part of religion all across every denomination and religion around the world, and linking entirely the Jewish nation to Christianity. Which is why they will not let me hit on that guy at Leeds University with the bow tie on, Melvin Bragg. We listened to him on the radio when I was on my honeymoon in fascist Norway, where only a couple of years ago Breivik killed over 50 innocent socialist kids because they were being trained in the wrong movement. Okay. Let's see what else they're sensitive about. So there's the Piso fraud and jokes too. There's the Piso fraud, Christianity and all religions. Those have had only 300 visits. That one's had 180. And I was stunned to see that the introduction to the fraud in plain English, which is only 16 minutes long and would have gotten me loads of hits, has only got 8 visits. Okay? All of the people who visited it liked it. Okay? I don't know why they have picked on that one, but because it's only 16 minutes long, like the video I made on Lord Patton before he had his heart attack, and is absorbable by millions were it not for the censorship in other unknown countries, then all of the news that Abelard Reuchlin published on his chalkboard could be out in the public eye now. So let me just show you that I'm going to try and change that now and make it public. Okay, it's got 8 visits now. If you want to see it, Abelard Royklin under religious fraud, billions, it was not pounds, it's billions of martyrs. I don't know what the rest of the title is, but I can edit it and see whether or not we can get that into the public eye now. On screen, as I press the buttons in front of your eyes, in case Prime Minister Cameron and his cabinet, or the quislings that work for him in the treasonous Scotland and the SNP, wanted it. Yesterday, Miss Salmond was pictured on the front page of the Scottish newspapers wearing, can you guess, the little blue dress that is sensitive in some countries, since I revealed, Greg Hallett's News, that Eva Braun, Hitler's girlfriend, was in a little blue dress when all of our body doubles were strewn all over the bunker with their bad dentition when they escaped out of Germany in the Beatles' yellow submarine, using the Sunderland float planes and all of the traitors that are Desmond Morton, the Fleming family and the British intel organisations, which are profiteers with the Hogan's Heroes people. Okay, I could play you the introduction to that. It's only got 8 visits. Okay, where do we find the publicity thing? So I'm going to copy the text and I'm going to put it in for my people who are on my list of Google Plus followers. Okay, there's a citation to the website for Abelard Royklin, which has now been taken down and has become the T-Mobile company in Washington, Northwest, USA. That's North by Northwest, where they made the movies about these heroic politicians in America, just under Beaverbrook's artificial border with Canada. So I'm pressing the public button now, and I'm copying the text into that box, and then I just enter that, and we should now be public. And just to make sure, I'll make sure that that is saved. All changes saved. Okay, it is a scandal, and there are the keywords: Abelard Royklin, Kent, Washington, USA, religious fraud, mind control, geopolitical manipulation, Professor George Lee's illegitimate monarchy, Arius Calpurnius Piso. That's the cats and dogs joke. It's as trivial as that. Muhammad and Muslims, New Testament, Villa Papyri, that's in Naples, and Vesuvius eruption. That's in Naples too. It erupted when the New Testament was released in 79 AD. Piso, Pistorius, which is one of the global covers in South Africa for the Piso crimes, like the Nile, and the urgent change of the name from the Nile to the piss on the heads of every religious worshipper all across our globe. Other keywords are media manipulation, martyrdom, crusades, genocide, Holocaust, war dead, World War II. It does not mention the Mr. Bean Anzac war dead thing, but you can bet your boots that my videos are banned in New Zealand because of the potency of the information of how the Crown Templar treat the colonists after they've been resettled in the colonies, which still belong entirely to Her Royal Highness and the Governor General, who's more powerful in all of those Commonwealth countries than any elected official. They are just puppets. Okay? I'm going to spend my morning tidying up my website and trying to reverse the censorship if it is at all possible. Okay? So you are now witnesses to my attempts to try and expose the loss of sovereignty in every country across the globe. because the project for the Rothschilds is now complete. They own every central bank on the globe. That includes Libya, it includes Cuba, it includes the last few to go, which were Iraq and Afghanistan and Kurdistan, and all of it is just a game for the world's owners. That is the money lenders that the fictitious Jesus warned us about. And the linkage between Moser and Melvin Bragg and Mrs. Thatcher and the American presidents at that time, who were working their way through the CIA before they entered the White House, that explains the state of the world that we now live in and the chaotic nature of it. Even the policemen are busted for cash. They have no pensions. They have to bail out in their mid-40s if they want a future. All of the banking staff have told me that all of them have taken their pensions in their 30s because they could see what their bosses were doing to the funds. Okay? It is illicit. It is vicious, and the censorship of the free world in people's own living rooms, I'm delighted by that. Yeah? It keeps me safe. My campaign is highly public. Even the school kids in my hometown are beginning to approach me on the streets, pat me on the back. They want to talk. They want to understand. We're having our parish church closed down, but the school kids here get Friday afternoon off because they don't want all of my crimes to be shared with them, and they are now trying to make themselves populist. The headmistress talks to me in the supermarket, and she lives in the same region as the missing Archbishop O'Brien, which I would like to make the topic of my next conversation, as long as I can find out who's behind the closure of the local parishes. It is a scandal that religions claim to have no cash to support localism. It's the same with governments. Every one of our local councils is busted for cash. Every one of those council employees, public sector workers, lecturers, nurses, have had their pay frozen for 7 years back to back until last year when my campaign began to bite. The energy scandal is a scandal, but they let me publish that. They will not let me expose the massive religious frauds that take in every religion that has ever been launched by humans. That's all the messianic religions. They just pick one at a time to victimize, to launch the world wars and the terror campaigns or the revolutions. And I'm onto it now. They will never be able to do it again. Okay? That is why my videos are unavailable in some countries, and when I arrange to talk about religion to American investigative journalists, they bail out of the interview halfway through when I begin to get onto the war crimes jokes and the stealing from the local students. It's ever so sensitive for politicians who want to be worshipped by their followers to be exposed as genocidal profiteers in every campaign that they run. That's you, Salmond, and that is you, Sturgeon, in the little blue dress. I will not let you escape without a scar on your transcript. What you've done is relatively minor, but you were in a position to lead the world to freedom and to sovereignty for independent small nations. You have deserted that cause, and I'm going to get you.